With us this morning from the 2nd District, Congressional District here in Illinois since 2013 is Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome this morning. Well, I'm going to dive right in and congratulate you on your, as we said when we were putting this together, I am not, and I guess I could say I call myself, I'm not the gotcha guy. I want to be able to speak with folks like you, Madam Congresswoman, and just let you have the opportunity to let listeners across the country know what you're doing, what you're working on, what's important to you. But right out of the gate, I got to tell you, congratulations on the bipartisan spending bill. I know you guys had to lean in hard to get that done, given the times that we're in. What was it like to, in this, I guess you could say, 11th hour, get that done?
Well, it was a relief that we were not going to face a government shutdown. It's never a good time to do that, and particularly now going into November, it was even a worse time. But I'm glad that calmer heads prevailed, or common sense prevailed, and we were able to get it done. I give our leader, Hakeem Jeffries, a tremendous amount of credit, and the person that handles these things for us, Rosa DeLaura out of Connecticut. I always call her, she's a beast. I mean, she does such good work, on getting things done and that kind of thing. So it's a relief. And I know my colleagues, most of my colleagues, I'll put it like this, all of them on, the Democratic side, but most on the Republican side, I'm sure, are relieved. I think some, it was a shutdown, they wouldn't have been bothered as much, but most would be.
Yeah, and I was speaking to Henry, our board engineer, this morning about it, and it's somewhat of a political move, probably from the right, because to your point, and it's almost kind of what I said to Henry, wouldn't have really cared as much, but the destruction that it would cause for the country, but during this election season, would be tragic. And so kudos again to you and Representative DeLaura and of course, Minority Leader, hopefully soon to be Majority Leader Jeffries, for getting it done. So applause to you for that. A lot of people don't know, Congresswoman, what your district really geographically represents. Could you take a moment and let folks know it's a big, geographically, it's a big area.
Sure. I have the biggest district in Democratic district in Illinois, and I start at 43rd Street in Chicago, and I go south to Danville, a little south of Danville, and then west to Pontiac. So my district is truly urban, suburban, and rural. I have 4,500 farms in my district also. So I kind of have a taste of Illinois in my district.
Well, it kind of goes back to what a lot of people have been saying about the success of the convention, and I want to get your thoughts on that in a moment. But the question is, or the statement is, we had a diverse number of people at the convention in August, which is representative of the country. It's also representative of the district that you are in, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It is a very diverse district in all kinds of ways of diversity, geographic, ethnic, racial, economic levels, working, not working, low income, high income. It's like I said, it's probably a taste of America.
Without a doubt. And the convention showed that with not only the people that were speakers for those 4 days, but also just walking around both the McCormick Place and the United Center. And I've said a couple times, it was just I felt like my head was on a swivel. You probably did too, though, a little bit, with all the people that you got to see, right?
Head on a swivel, and then when all your colleagues come in and they have questions and, where should we go for this? Where's this? What's the best this the restaurant? I'm like, oh, my goodness. But I was teasing them Wednesday night saying, go home now, go home. But, no, they had a good time. Chicago definitely showed out, so I think that people were pretty pleased. A few, like my relatives on the East Coast said it went a little late for us, those kind of things. And I reminded them, well, she's from California. So they're, 3 hours behind New York. But I think that it was a very good convention, and people seem pleased.
I agree. Definitely agree. So you mentioned East Coast, and a lot of folks may not know this, but you were born on the East Coast, and then you moved to Illinois way back in the day and when people say back in the day, I laugh sometimes. You may too, when you say, well, what is your back in the day? Because, right? I mean, have you ever done that?
It's all relative.
It's all relative. But let our listeners know a little bit about that part of your background and then how you sort of ascended through the Illinois House of Representatives.
Sure. I'm born and raised in New York, and came to Illinois to attend Bradley University, where I have my undergrad and graduate degree. And then I always joke and say, 2 husbands later, I'm still in the Illinois area. But I lived in Peoria on and off a long time. In fact, both my children were born there. And then I came up to the Chicagoland area and worked for local government. And from there, there was a census change from the 2000 census, and actually a group of men came and asked me to consider running for state representative, and I said no, and I can't do it. I told them I'm sensitive, that I'll cry easy, all kind of excuses. And then my, family and friends said, you can do this. So truly took a leap of faith and ran against a 10-year incumbent, worked so hard. And on election night, by 8 o'clock, I think that night, or 7:45, I knew I'd won. And that really started my political journey, and served there 4 years. And then a young man wanted me to be his chief. I told him no for 3 weeks, and took another leap of faith, actually gave up my seat and became Alexi Giannoulias' chief of staff for 4 years. And no regrets, great decision. All of us are still close that worked in the office, and he decided to run for President Obama's seat, and I decided to run for his. And 2010 was not a good year for Democrats. We both lost.
Yeah.
And I wound up being the chief administrative officer for Cook County for 2 years. And then when Congressman Jackson decided not to run, got a lot of phone calls. You should do this. And I didn't know if I was ever going to run again or not. I didn't have to be elected. I knew to, make changes and make a difference. And we were doing good things in my position at the county, but ran, and me and I think 17 other Democrats. I think it was 5 Republicans and 3 independents, something like that. And somehow I wound up, winning again. A lot of hard work, but it was very short because it was a special election.
Right.
And I've been there 11 and a half years in October.
Well, I like to give folks the opportunity to know the history of someone that's been in politics or been in representing people, let's put it that way, because you've done that both as an elected official and outside of that. So that's why I wanted just to have folks know a little bit more about who you are and how you've ascended to where you are now. So one of the questions I have for you is, women's issues are on everybody's tip of the tongue for everybody.
Right.
Give us as a nation a grade or an assessment of where we are, and then a grade on where we are.
Well, as you said, women's issues are on most people's minds, when the downfall of Roe v. Wade, that was shocking, devastating, and I still say, unbelievable that my daughter has less rights than I did, many years ago. And to see that fall, and that affected, it seems like that was just a domino, and now we're talking about IVF and, on and on and on. And I do a lot of work around maternal mortality and morbidity, and the United States ranks very low, gets low grades on women and delivering babies compared to, other countries, and black women, fare even worse. They die 3 to 1 times the rate of white women. So I would say, in the healthcare arena, we get, I'm trying to think of a grade, but I don't know if it's a C or even less than that. And then when you look at our pay is still less, than men for the same work. And if you're a woman of color, it's even worse. So we have a lot of work to do in lifting up our women and the rights of women and what women get paid, women that are running, corporations and entrepreneurs and things like that. Interestingly enough, in Congress, looking at the Congressional Black Caucus, we started with 12 men and 1 female, Shirley Chisholm. And now there's, is it 60 of us? Yeah. And 32 of us 32. Are women.
Yeah.
So we're coming on. And even in period, but on more the Democratic side, not the, Republican side. There's more women, but nothing compared to, the Democratic side. But despite that, we're still, fighting tooth and nail for, our rights. And when you think about women and working, like the issue around childcare is so expensive. And, we didn't have the babies by ourselves, but, a lot of times we're still responsible, you know what I mean? And so just looking at things like that, we need to do a lot better than we're doing.
And I agree with you there. I push really hard with guys. I said, listen, we have to lean in, irrespective of our age. If you're 75-year-old male or if you're, 20-year-old male, we have to lean in harder to help support and push issues and agendas to strengthen all of us, but certainly with women's issues, because it impacts all of us. And a lot of men, I don't think a lot of men get that, but I know that more men are getting it. And that's somewhat encouraging to see, but it's come from leadership like your involvement with the Congressional Black Caucus and the Health Bearing Trust and all the things that you're a part of. What are some of the successes that you guys have seen recently with those 2 congressional groups?
Well, I feel like with the CDC, and it could be this way with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, but I'm a member of CDC. I feel that when I look at what happened with the infrastructure bill that we were able to pass, the Congressional Black Caucus at that time under the leadership of Congresswoman Joyce Beatty, we were a big part of negotiating and getting that passed. And one thing I give President Biden and the Biden-Harris administration so much credit, because they listened to us. They listened to the different groups. They consulted with us. We were at the White House, giving, our thoughts and those kind of things. For us, we won't be satisfied until we can get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. And, we see more equality in black wealth. And we passed the, George Floyd, justice and policing. These things have passed in the House, but we couldn't get them passed in the Senate. And then when we went in the minority, we couldn't get, things passed in the House. So that's why we need the trifecta, like we had. But then, in the Senate, it's more than the majority to pass a bill. So it's really tough when people say, how come this hasn't happened? Because we have to have the right people at the table voting at the same time, in both houses. It's tough.
Right now, that's a big conversation in terms of what Congress is or is not doing. And I always try to let folks remind people, and I literally mean always, it's the trifecta right now. Vice President Harris and Tim Walz win. We still need to have the Senate, the House, and state legislatures. And you were a part of that, so you totally understand the import of that. But I'll ask you a couple of last questions because I know you have a busy morning. And again, congratulations on the bipartisan spending bill getting passed.
Thanks.
So we're going to have you back because we love having you on again and talking about what you're working on. But if you could, as we wrap up, give us a little bit of your vision, a little bit of your goal for your next term, these next 2+ years, and what do you want to see get taken care of, get accomplished?
Before I get to that, right now, my goal to be able to see my vision is to make sure Vice President Harris becomes President Harris and Hakeem Jeffries becomes the Speaker of the House, because without that, it's really tough. But, I have a very heavy healthcare portfolio. People still don't have, access as much as we've done. More people still need access to healthcare. As I said, my district is urban, suburban, and rural, and in the urban areas, but also in the suburban and rural areas, people have, a hard time with, where healthcare facilities are, enough doctors and nurses and doulas and people like that. So we'll work on that. I think gun violence prevention is a public health crisis. That's what I ran on. And we still, as you know, have a lot more work to do. Economic development is always in my mind for my district as far as workforce development, education and training. But I have bills that I've had in the hopper that haven't seen the light of day. So hopefully, they will see the light of day, and, we'll be able to move forward as not only my district and state, but as a country.
Civics 101, guys. House, Senate, and the White House, so that they can get stuff done. And as a Congresswoman said, with Leader Hakeem Jeffries, that will allow us to move things forward. So as we let you go, and thank you so much for being with us, how can folks and listeners all over the country find you, support you, and be able to get behind your work?
Well, I have 3 offices, one in Chicago. This is on the government side. One in Chicago, one in Matheson, and one in Danville. You can just Google me, and everything comes up. Congresswoman Robin Kelly. Everything comes up, both on the government side and then on the political side.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Congresswoman, for being with us today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. We will keep your name loud and strong and proud, because we know that what you're doing, it means a lot to so many people in this diverse district that you represent. So have a great rest of the day. Stay strong. And when you feel that push, that's us from Chicago just propping you up a little bit more, okay?
I'm feeling it. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too. Bye now.